So can we all agree that the original Twister was a very silly movie?
Cal, I gotta go, Julia. We got cows. Another cow.
Actually, I think that was the same one.
And yet, for all its ridiculousness, the original 1996 film is still seen as one of the best disaster flicks from a decade that was utterly dominated by them. A whopping 28 years later, and we finally have a sequel, but while the original was riding the wave of a popular Hollywood trend, Twisters is actually trying to go against the grain. Unlike with so many revived franchises, it has no interest in being a legacy sequel. It doesn't try to round up the surviving members of the original cast, the plot doesn't attempt to repeat the original, and the new cast doesn't need a big passing the torch moment in order to justify their place in the franchise. It's just a sequel, one that could have come out a few years after the original if you just change around a few details. I'm also tempted to say it's better than the original, but we'll get to that later. The movie starts off with Daisy Edgar-Jones as Kate, leading her own ragtag group of storm chasers in Oklahoma. Tornadoes are obviously still a big problem in that part of the country, and she's come up with a way to potentially force them to collapse if the right chemicals are sucked up into the storm's vortex. But their latest chase goes disastrously wrong, and everyone winds up dead except for her and Anthony Ramos's Javi. We get a 5-year time skip, and Javi convinces Kate to come back to Oklahoma for what could be a groundbreaking tornado research project. She agrees, but their first attempt at 3D mapping a tornado fails, partially because of her trauma, and also because of distractions from Glen Powell's Tyler Owens, the leader of a pack of rambunctious storm-chasing YouTubers. I have no idea if that's a thing, and I'm not going to check. The biggest point in Twister's favor is that it's nowhere near as jokey as the original. The opening sequence is effective at showing just how dangerous these storms can be when you're anywhere near them, and plenty of scenes are dedicated to showing how they can devastate a community in a matter of seconds. And while you can dive right in without having seen the original, it manages to play off your expectations if you have. When Javi's group is introduced as well-organized and financially backed, you're immediately tipped off that something is wrong, even if they seem focused on doing something good. And while Tyler and his group seem insufferable at first, they quickly remind you of Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt's old crew. So it's no surprise when they turn out to be way more altruistic than they initially appear. And because it's Powell, you already know he's going to switch from being an adversary to a love interest as the film goes on. Yet both that subplot and the film's overall structure will keep you guessing. It might not be as concerned with practical effects and destroying entire film sets like the last one, but it manages to keep you on the edge of your seat as the chasers keep having to save civilians as more tornadoes blow through. Also, this is a small note, but as somebody who was raised in Tornado Alley, I appreciate the movie pointing out just how wild it was that so many massive tornadoes were popping up in the same general area in a matter of days. There's like 8 in the first one, and if that happened in real life, we'd be calling it the end of the world. And I'll say it outright, the climax is better in this one. I remember sitting there thinking there's no way they can outdo that F5 from the original, and then the final tornado hits a refinery, becomes this giant pillar of fire, and then gets even bigger. Way to make me eat my words, movie. As for some random observations, props to Jones for holding her own and not letting Powell just dominate the film with his charisma. Despite this being another notch on Powell's rise up the Hollywood ranks, it still manages to be her movie. Bill Paxton's son makes a cameo, which is an awesome little tribute that I completely missed. I'll have to catch that on a rewatch. And yes, Superman himself, David Cornsweet, is in the movie. He's pretty good, but I swear they kept putting him in the baggiest polos possible to hide the fact that he's built like a house. Look, people are already expecting this to have a big opening weekend. There's a good chance you were going to go see this regardless of reviews. But if you have any reservations, rest easy. Twisters is a ton of fun, a great disaster movie, and in many ways superior to the original. Definitely worth a trip to the theater. Thanks for watching.